I have to say, I don't miss that part. The show is fun for sure. It had its moments, but we were in airports more than trees. I think at the end to get
Wow.
the way their scheduling was. I think Katie and I, they had the world believing we built and put in every nail and screw in every treehouse and like 12 a year, but it just for 15 minutes in Michigan and 20 minutes in Montana and then 5 minutes in Florida. Yeah, we did it all. But really, editing we were traveling too much, and it's been the season we did the North Star Reach Treehouse. That was the last of the shooting. So, and that was remind me again the date we built your treehouse.
It was fall or late summer of 2016.
16, yeah. So yeah, 4 years ago was the last of the shooting. Later, you guys, that did make it into football season. I remember from summer into Jody and I went to a Michigan game, and then after that, I think maybe a couple more that were out west, and then that was it for the shooting. And it was exhausting. It was fun, but exhausting.
Yeah. So want to welcome everybody into our 10 o'clock hour of Campathon. Super excited to have Jan Culberson, who is supporter of North Star Reach all the way around, but her little known superpower is to design buildings and structures and animal shelters and super cool green roofs and all kinds of things. And we also have Beaver Roth, who is a native Ann Arborite, I think if that's the right way to say it, but he designs cool structures in the outdoors and is the person that helped design our treehouse here at camp. He is famous for being one of the treehouse guys. And again, we're so grateful to have both of you with us. I want to give a quick update on our fundraising. If I can get to my phone here. We have just surpassed 40, where's my little camera thing? About $45,000, which is super cool. And so thanks to all our amazing donors who've helped make that happen. I think we have 50 fundraising teams who are helping to make this happen, and every single one has raised money. So thank you to everyone out there, and welcome Jan and Beaver.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. It's great to be here.
So it's cool that I get an opportunity to, and again, I'm here at camp today, but I get to live your legacies here at camp, which is super cool. That I think that's one of the coolest things that for me, and I never really got it. I had the opportunity to help design a camp before coming to North Star Reach. And that was my first experience working with designers in the construction world and the architecture world. And it just opened up this whole new thought that your stuff lasts forever. And it's so cool to think about the gift that you give. So let's start with Jan real quick. What's that like being someone that gets to take all other people's ideas and then mesh in a little bit of your own and leave something lasting that people get to enjoy?
Yeah, architecture is like a phenomenal profession. I mean, I wanted to be an architect since I was 9 years old, I think. And so I had, the good fortune of being in Ann Arbor and around the U of M. And I loved the outdoors. I was a Girl Scout all the way through high school, and we, did kayaking and backpacking. So being outdoors was really important to me. And in fact, I almost became a landscape architect. It was just a real tough pull between, but I think it's the intersection. It's a really creative intersection of science and art that is crafted, it's tangible, and it creates something for community. That's what I think is so exciting about being an architect and working with amazing people like Beaver. I mean, the way you're used to, studs and, some steel beams and stuff. And all of a sudden along comes Beaver, and man, they're doing tree things.
And out of level, and then we bend the rules.
Yeah, it's like, and they're nothing square. It was just a whole different palette of things to work with, you know?
So Beefer, how did you, tell us a little bit about how you got into like elevating architecture, right? Like that's what you're doing. You are just totally taking it up.
We're taking it up, and I'm not going to pardon the pun, but going out on a limb with everything we do is like really, as you implying, testing the boundaries, pushing the boundaries. And what's wonderful about treehouse design is that Mother Nature is the lead architect. I'm facilitating what she has to offer. So in the case of, well, at North Star Ridge Camp and anywhere in the country we go, I find the appropriate trees that can hold up a structure, and when need be, like at camp, we add posts when need be. But when you start a design around the layout of the trees establish the footprint. They do a lot to establish design, and then we take it from there. What the trees will accommodate, we then take and run with it. So it's fun for me because no two things are the same. It's like in Jan's world, where in a I want to say a real building, not to say that ours aren't real, but they're really different. When you start out with a foundation where you decide what is the footprint, that's one thing. When we start in the trees, where the footprint is determined by the spread of the trees and the angle, the relationships, then we work with it from there. So in my background, as Jan mentioned, her landscape architecture was a choice. That's what I first went to school for, was up at that place about an hour north of Ann Arbor that has a really good landscape architecture program. And I grew up in Ann Arbor, or I shouldn't say I grew up, but as a kid, I lived there. And then when I was old enough to go to college, still having not grown up, I went to Michigan State for 2 years. But then after finding it such a huge school, I hitchhiked around the country a little bit and landed in Vermont and finished college in fine art. So I'm taking my educational background in landscape architecture and fine arts, and they're like, okay, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts. They're like, now what? Like, I'm an artist. How do I make a living? And carpentry was a natural thing, and because I knowing structures, but being more of an artistic angle. Somehow or other, without sparing you, without going into great detail, I stumbled into treehouse building after years of furniture making, house building, and then treehouse building, and working like so. The essence of treehouse building is to create a childlike space, no matter if we're 8, 18, or 80. So the campers that come to your camp and many others we've done treehouses for, they may be kids, but their mom and dad or their grandparents are also going to share that experience, whether they're dropping the kid off at camp, picking them up. The whole sense of community, of multi-generational community, is really key. And the essence of a treehouse is that everyone that gets to experience it is brought back to a childlike space. And so at North Star Reach, it couldn't have been a better client. It couldn't have been a better setting to create a childlike space. And we're talking about for kids that are coming there with various physical situations and health situations that, dang it, all we want to do is be a kid and be with other kids and grown-up adults that act like kids. And we just have the fun of sharing a space that just simply lets us be a kid, no matter what's going on in their physical health. It's like the mental health of being in a treehouse. I don't know if there's any doctor's reports yet that have exclaimed this, but you talk about healing powers. Go in a treehouse and daydream for an hour or two or a day, and you're gonna feel better. So I'm just happy to be have my work be part of creating a space that, in essence, makes you feel like a kid and therefore makes you feel better.
Well, I can remember your crew. I think they would question whether you've grown up yet too, probably.
I deny. If they ever claim I have, then I know I've screwed up. That would result in like a square wall or a level roof. Then I know I've really effed up. So, and that's growing up. So even my wife in our wedding ceremony, an outdoor in the woods wedding, part of her vows was, I will not make Beaver grow up. So hallelujah for that. Happy for
Awesome.
that.
Well, that's why we felt that having Jan and you together were such a great team for us, and kind of bookends to help make that happen. And so, Jan, talk a little bit about the history of how you got involved with North Star Reach and kind of help this become what we are today, and what were some of your favorite memories or favorite parts about camp?
Yeah. Well, I was our architecture practice it does a lot of healthcare and nonprofits, and it's sort of embedded in sustainability. And so when the University of Michigan was talking about this camp with Doug, I was going, oh my gosh, that would be like, the pinnacle of any kind of career, and lo and behold, we were able to work with you guys. And I still remember, you go on Google Earth and you look at the property and you go, ooh, it's a pretty neat looking peninsula. And then you land on it and you walk it, and it's this beautiful oak hickory forest. And you have prairies, you have like this bog, an emergent kind of marsh. You have a sandy beach, you have 2 lakes. Oh my gosh, what else could it be? A camp, And just remember walking it that first time with the civil engineers and you, Doug, and it just sitting and closing my eyes and thinking, this is such an amazing site, and I can't think of a better use. And it was so cool because there was already a framework from the fresh air camp that was built in the 20s, I think it started. And so you had this little framework, and then you could really think about how all the whole scale of a camp, like okay, it's the individual and going out and having fun with another friend, your cabin, your village, all the way up to the whole camp. And I think you had a really neat philosophy about the scale of the camp, but also the journey, that you don't want things too far apart, but you don't want things too close. You want to be able to immerse yourself in the woods and explore. And I think the moose story was very early. And I don't know, Patrick, what is this moose thing? There are no moose in the Lower Peninsula, right? Saying, oh yeah, this moose is going to be a part of camp. And I'm going, oh gosh. But it makes so much sense because, okay, the North Star is serious. I mean, it is, it's always been the spiritual beacon, right? And then there's a crazy moose. So you have the seriousness of the North Star and the crazy fun aspect of the moose. And it fit perfectly.
So Beaver, I know part of the episode that we did of Treehouse Guys was a little bit about coming home. And I thought there was this really cool kind of, I don't know if symmetry is the right word or bookends, whatever it would be, but you're coming home here, but also the history of working at Hole in the Wall Gang Camp and helping with their treehouse.
Yes.
How did that all work out?
Wow, it's such a nice connection how just if you put yourself out there with some sort of a sense of a positive attitude to start, how things happen. And how when we met the folks at the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, just through a mutual friend that was on the board of directors there, that said, oh gosh, you should meet the folks at Hole in the Wall, because what they do for camp and for kids, a treehouse would be ideal. So of course, when we met them, including walking around the woods with Paul Newman, like a buddy, just walking around the woods, it's like such a wonderful guy. And well, Jan just said that the North Star, that beacon, that like, all right, so from the Hole in the Wall camp, then the North Star Reach in association with the Hole in the Wall camps, there's that beacon, that connection. Like, I barely knew the Hole in the Wall folks. And yes, I grew up in Ann Arbor and I didn't know of this camp that existed. When Jan called to introduce me to the whole situation, she somehow, in Ann Arbor, I'm in Vermont, and the North Star is up above us. That was the beacon. And in the Hole in the Wall camp in Connecticut, we just kind of connected the stars, connected the dots from Michigan to Vermont to Connecticut and then back to Ann Arbor. It's like, just the serendipity of it all is wonderful, and how the network of North Star Reach camps, starting the Hole in the Wall camp way back when Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward had this vision, and the vision that they have to share with others that are going through all kinds of situations physically, that just creating a space that people can get together and simply enjoy one another's camaraderie. It happened in Connecticut, it happened in Ann Arbor, and as you mentioned, Patrick, the bonus for me was, it was not only another place to connect people in a cool space, but that homecoming part, I was crying. I went home to 1008 Sunnyside, the house my father designed and built in 1950. He was a designer builder, and that's in my soul, and somehow, just amazing how we can connect dots that are out there, or stars that are out there that we don't even know until we stumble upon them, or they just hit us right in the face and say, here, you're back home, create a place at this camp with these awesome people. So getting to know you and Doug, and getting to know Jan and all the campers. And so, I don't know, on my screen, I'm only seeing Patrick and Jan and myself. And then on the right, there's a North Star Reach graphic. So are there hundreds of people out there watching? I want to say hi to all the campers that are watching that have had the chance to be in camp. What Jan described, such a beautiful scene, the woods, the lakes, and all that she described. If you're out there watching and we've met, hello again. I'm so tickled to. I don't see you, but if you're seeing me and you're enjoying just us reminiscing about camp and what it means, hi everybody. So it's so great to still be connected. So bottom line, as Patrick mentioned, it was a homecoming for me, and but I made so many new friends, and that's the marvel of my work. And Jan too, I'm sure you can also echo this thought. Like, when you create these magical spaces, you don't we spent a lot of time building the place, and then we drive down the road, the tool trailers in my rear view mirror, and I'm heading back to the home or the next job, and I don't see it for years. But then for all that time and effort going into it, every once in a while I have gone back and I've snuck out to camp and seen it. So just getting to reconnect today in this crazy time we're going through, and having to do a virtual talk and fundraiser and virtual camps, we do what we got to do to keep going on. And if we can virtually remember and cherish our experiences at camp, then let's go on that way. So good to see everyone.
I was curious because I remember, and one of my favorite parts, certainly the community, I think, that we created, your crew and KV, it was so great for me because I had known Jason Lindsay from a total
another star that fell out of the sky.
All those things were really fun, but I remember you talking about some features in the treehouse, like the clear story was important because that was a part of your house on Sunnyside.
True. Yep. Yeah, that was nice to get to. Yeah, that was very good to incorporate that. The light, actually, the ceiling you see behind me is this rock that's layered like clapboard. My dad did in the clear story of that house on Sunnyside, so it's here in Vermont too. But incorporating little things like that. And what was really, really fun was before we got going in the early design stages, I threw it out there to camp to anyone, if their attic's cluttered or their basement's full of old skis or sleds or snowboards or toboggans and license plates, for crying out loud, to get to trim out. Every time I look back at pictures of the treehouse, they're doing the window trim and corner boards with skis and license plates. What a hoot. That was so much fun. But that goes back to that. It's in line with making it look like a kid did it. So the childlike part, throwing skis in as window trim, and thanks for reminding me of the clear story, a nod to my pops, but the kid-like essence of the ski trims and the out of levelness that, make it look like a kid did it. And well, kids did do it, didn't they? You met all the kids.
Exactly. It was fun collecting all those things too. And
yeah, and
I'm like, oh yeah, because yeah. So I have a pair of cross country skis out there.
Oh, good. Yeah, there you go. So everyone that contributed of tons of stuff came into that we sifted through. Someone could go by, go, oh yeah, those are my dynamic skis from 1972 that aren't sharp and now they're window trim. And
right. And the wooden tennis rackets, right?
Yeah, tennis racket door. Love doing the tennis racket doors, the snowshoe, and the to really emphasize the outer level part. My old wooden 4-foot level is on a window that's so out of level. It's like, yay! Yeah.
I think that's such a cool part of all of this experience is that, again, I feel like I get to live that every day when I'm here at camp. And yeah, every time I see that level, I think of you and I think of your team and I think of how much energy they brought. And then other times when I'm walking around and really appreciating the work that Jan and her team did, it's just that connection, I think, is one of my favorite pieces. And last night I was very fortunate to have a friend from an old camp that I used to work at who came and played guitar for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And it was so cool because when we saw the Facebook feed, a whole bunch of people that I had probably not talked with or connected with in a long time, but were part of that community, were listening and watching. And I just think that connectedness piece is so wonderful and rich and part of our culture. And I think that as you've described, you've created spaces that enhance that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great thing. And Jan used the term, the journey of going from one space to another. That camp has so many places, so many journeys to take. And the end result of your journey is going down to the beach, swimming, going to I think we had a pretty silly little bow and arrow round. That's an option there. Disc golf, frisbee golf, or walking in the woods, going to, I want to recall one of my favorite journeys is walking from the treehouse to the main dining hall, which is an amazing building. It's such a cool structure. Would you believe Jan used trees as posts? Real trees in a building like that? It was so cool. But get inside that space where all the campers and all the counselors are there for lunch. That journey from treehouse to lunch break to eat spaghetti with no hands. Come on, where else do you get to do that? So fun.
Oh, we love your energy, Beefer. I miss it so much. And KV and your guys, you just brought so much to us.
It's been fun. It totally is fun. I want a spaghetti sauce face. I want to get back to that. So next time there's a chance, let me know. I mean, to look up from your plate down each side of the table, like seeing all these, I can't say shit-eating grins. Yeah, I can say that. Zoom. All these grins, ear-to-ear grins, covered in red spaghetti sauce, tomato sauce. Like, what a sight! Yeah. But in that space, that mess hall, that's the right word for it, right? Mess hall. On that, just the energy in there is just phenomenal. And then that energy from there goes off, as Jan mentioned, all these little journeys within, how many acres are there? There's so many acres and so many choices.
105.
105 acres of just splendor. And you're in not even a half an hour to Ann Arbor, to the big city. It's so great. It's such a lovely spot.
Jan, how did your camp experience help inform your thoughts about this?
Well, I think, we talked about it very early, not being a thematic camp. It's an authentic camp. And that really resonated with me, that, the buildings aren't identical. They use, a range of materials and a range of shapes. They shouldn't look like they were all built together. So you have, just like, the beautiful variety of the landscape, each building has its own unique quality. And I still loved thinking about, okay, how can you have things that are hidden in plain sight? And thinking about, when we came up with the idea of the moose tracks, and every building you can find moose prints, and those moose prints will always be going in one direction, and that's north. And it was just a really fun thing to embed in the camp, and hopefully people and kids continue to discover things like that.
That's cool.
One of my favorite parts when I think about the big picture, and the spring always brings this back for me, because I think here the four seasons are so distinct at camp, even beyond, I think, where we live geographically, that the winter is so wide open. You can see every building through the woods, and whether you're down on the path looking up like to the treehouse, or way on the backside of camp, you can see cabins when you drive in. It's just so open. And then the spring comes and those things start to disappear as life comes back to camp. And I think that I love how that corresponds with the fact that that's when we're starting to bring kids in. And then in the summer, camp is really hidden, and you can't, like, I wish I could figure out like a percentage that you can see so much of camp. So when you're up at the cabins, you've got that narrow corridor that comes down to the dining hall, and you can kind of barely see the dining hall from the cabins. And then once you get there, you only can see, the big dining hall and the health center, but then there's the hill that kind of hides all this stuff down. And I feel like camp is continually revealing itself in the summertime. So you're not just, the intimacy, I think, is what's really cool. And then when we get into the fall, the colors in camp almost like the buildings almost disappear in the fall, because they match so well the earth tones with the variety. And I think that, again, that's one of my, I'm not sure I have a favorite time here, because they're all so amazing. And then we bring back to winter when it's all completely revealed. And I'm just so grateful that our process led us to that way. And I can remember, Beeper, one of the funny things, not only about the treehouse, but it's the porches on a majority of the buildings are also off just a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember Ryan, our site superintendent, said it was like the hardest thing for him to do was not build. He's like, jokingly going, I can't stand this. I hate this. I want you to build something that's just off. How hard that was for him.
Yeah. But what a freeing up experience for him. Hopefully.
So what other memories for you about your treehouse experience? I mean, like, what's the craziest build, or what's the, like, if you could go back and not redo one, but relive one, like, what's one of your most favorite? And it doesn't have to be North Star Reach, but like outside of North Star Reach, what's one that you would totally want to like relive again?
Well, that question comes up a lot. Like, what's your favorite, or what's your favorite comes up a lot. And I can only honestly answer that by saying the current one we're doing, because they're all great. They've all been great, and all the clients have been great. So I think, unlike in like the regular house building world or office building world, the clients, I mean, they want a product that done for a budget, blah, 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 like hard line. In our client work relation, it's always at the end of a job, we become really good friends. Like, there's always the connection we made. There's always good friends. So I could count, and now it's been 20 years we've been doing this. I can count on not even one hand clients over 20 years, which is, I don't know how many dang treehouses, but that I don't keep in touch with. 99% of the people I'm still in touch with. So to go back to try to point it to any one, it's really hard to do. So, I mean, for the sake of flattering you, I'm going to say North Star Reach. I got to say, getting to play with the skis and the toboggans and all that window trim and license plates, that for me was the most kid-like design detail we could have ever pulled off. We've always done out of level and warped roofs and all that, but I don't, getting to play And also because the TV show was going on that time, it also opened the door to have some filming with campers, and one very lucky camper that was a rock star that got to it. So they're not just getting to plug in with the kids. So I think if ever, when I think of going back to anyone, yeah, a lot of private backyard treehouse have been fun, but mostly the ones that have been in camps, and there's right over the mountain from where I live here in Vermont, a camp for adults with disabilities that I go every summer and spend a week at camp. They have a month-long camp session. So I'd say, to answer your question politically correct, like whenever I can go to any treehouse we've done in the past and reconnect with those people that started as clients and finish as friends, that's the best part. So yeah, I can't give a straight answer. They're all great. So, but I love your camp's treehouse so much because of all the trim, and that people donated it. So there's a sense of community, people that donate us. Jan says she can go and see her skis, and Mr. and Mrs. Jones that gave the toboggan, for crying out loud. I use a toboggan for window trim. So yeah, I don't know. They're all great.
Jan, what are some of your other projects that you've gotten to do kind of beyond maybe, an academic building, or some of your passions? I mean, I know for one, working with the animal shelter locally was something that
the Humane Society, and I still, I still get calls, and we still connect, and that was also just an amazing, taking something that had, people who came you had such a negative feeling, you didn't want to stay there, you felt sorry for the animals that were there, and now it's just, it's a happy place, and you can go and just connect, and they have the programming that they've been able to do with kids, and because I think the connection between animals, just like nature, the connection between animals and kids. And then we've just finished Ozone House, and they also, I worked with them for about 7 years trying to find a site, and the city of Ypsilanti had a site that they weren't able to sell, and it was on the Huron River. Well, it had all sorts of easements and slopes and so forth, and it was sort of like the same thing. How do you take what's there and really use the topography of the land to enhance the architecture, and then what you can do with the landscape and that connection with people and the healing that happens when you're in a natural environment. That's so I learned so much from North Star Reach. I think and I continue to, I'm just amazed and humbled by all the volunteers and the medical professionals and the nurses that I continue to meet in the community that have volunteered at camp. It's bigger than I could ever imagine how many lives it's touched in so many ways.
Well, I love hearing both of you talk a lot about community, because I think that's what's so important in connectedness. And when we started this project, I was so fortunate to have learned from other people as well, people that have influenced and kind of helped guided that process, and with community and connectedness being the goal. Camp isn't buildings, but buildings build connectedness. They create opportunities. It's the human piece that is the strength. But when you can design something that fosters that and that allows it to happen, and whether that's in a crazy dining hall or whether that's in a tree house that puts you in a frame of mind. I'm curious for both of you, Beefer, who were influences in your life? Like who helped you become who you are?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll start the close to the bone is my father, having built the house we grew up in and designed it and built it. So my brothers and I and my sister, we're influenced by that, just by being around Dad always doing stuff. But as I got older and started knowing more about the design world and art world, I'd have to say two very important figures would be the greatest American author, Dr. Seuss. Artist / author. That's one for sure. Look at any drawings in any one of his books. If there's a house, like look in which is it? The Cat in the Hat comes to mind when the two kids are stuck at home in the winter and the mom goes, the roof is warped. Right up, day one, the roof is warped. Those books I looked at as a kid, there it is. And then when I got to know more beyond the greatest American author, I think the greatest architect in the world, in my humble opinion, everyone will have their, I can't wait to hear Jan's, but Antoni Gaudi in Barcelona, Spain.
Oh.
Did
of course.
stuff. Like, talk about, I mean, he had to read Dr. Seuss too. I hope it was translated in Catalan, because his structures are very organic and twisted and warped and, oh gosh, just out there. So, and we're talking back when, Jen, the 20s, 1920s, right? 1930s. So Dr. Seuss and Gaudi, there you go. And my dad. Who you got, Jan?
Yeah, well, early, I've got to say my mom, because she, was a microbiologist and really worked and had her own business. And so that was, very inspiring for me. And my dad, who said, you can be anything you want to be as long as it's practical. There's this, literature, science, and art stuff. And then, but I think, when I went into architecture school, it was, really looking, there's, there were, some professors there was one who said, architecture has to be a high rise, and it's not, architecture with an A unless it's like that. And I'm just going, that's not me, that's not what I believe. And then in grad school, I was in the community design program with Jim Chafers, and he got so much of it right. It was about people, it was about community, it was about building those connections, and it's about the spirit, it's about the human spirit, and bringing those spirits together, and equity, justice, all of those things. And I think that is really what spurred me. I found that catalyst that really gave impetus to where I wanted to go with my career, and it's been so rewarding.
He was a professor at U of M.
Yeah, and I have a I think it's a relatively final draft of his book that he's been working on for 5 years that hopefully will get published soon. And just to be able to go back and have that relationship with a professor, that I had in the 70s. And now, he's sharing this, everything he's put together in his life, and to be, a part of that, and to just really treasure that relationship. Nice.
Oh, that's great. Well, I would love to read it if it does get published. When it comes out, please share it with us.
Sure.
So Jan, you probably remember the book A Pattern Language.
Oh, sure.
Which was Christopher Alexander. Early 70s, and again, it just touching on how the interconnectedness of spaces and buildings, and I mentioned also in the treehouse thing of the multi-generational thing. I think a lot of Europe and Asia grandparents live with families. There's 3 generations, whereas in America we're pretty much mom and pops and kids, and a lot of single parents and kids. But in other parts of the world, it's very important that the grandparents are on board too. And I think that was one thing. Pattern language had a big influence on me back in college age.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And Patrick, I think what you said at the very beginning about the legacy and, building structures that last. And I think that's one issue that we have, a bit of an issue we have in this country, that an awful lot of our buildings are built as developments to be turned over and depreciated and passed on. And so and even the financing for buildings is short-term financing. And if you really want to build something that's sustainable, that will last, that really embraces the future and it evolves through time, you need to invest. And I just love the investment that's been made in North Star Reach and people and in the place. It's amazing.
It is.
For being a part of it.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm curious because one of the things as a camp director, when I go to other camps or even when you watch things on TV, you know, I'll notice, well, that person doesn't have a helmet on and they're climbing on a ropes course, or you notice things, right? Because you're so tuned in. And I know that some of, I can't remember who it was. I think I was talking with one of the construction guys one time, and he goes, I can't walk in a Best Buy without looking up at the ceiling and seeing if the lines are straight or different kind of, because you're just into that.
Yeah.
In your worlds, what do you see in the world when you're out? Like, what do you notice about design, or where do you pull other inspirations from? Are you like, oh my gosh, that would be such a cool thing to figure out how to pull into what I do, or where do you get ideas from?
Walking in the woods. Walking in the woods for me is more an adventure of what is the potential of what the woods have to offer. So whether it's bringing something in from the woods, like if you see a fallen down tree that has a crooked branch in a way that you can immediately recognize as, well, that would be a great arm of a chair, an armrest on a chair. Or, I mean, just seeing in nature things that could become art for me is fun. Or then that earlier on when I did furniture for a bunch of years out of tree limbs, that was the case. Now it's walking in the woods and looking around and saying, oh, you could fit a nice small little treehouse within that threesome of oaks right there. Like just seeing things in the woods differently. And what I get such a kick out of nowadays is someone will come up to you and say, oh, we just hiked the long trail from Lincoln down to Middlebury, and I saw this crooked such and such a tree, and and I thought of you, and I go, they're nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of my favorite things, and you're sitting by an aisle 6 item right there, that I learned about your culture as a part of the treehouse guys was using things that you found in the woods. And I remember some of the adventures that you're like, well, we need to find something that will go here.
Yeah, right. And you know it's out there. You know it's in the proverbial aisle 6. Some days you find it in minutes. Other times you walk out aisle 6 for 3 hours until it's at the very back of the store on the left, and you go, oh, I should have started here hours ago.
What was the origin of aisle 6? Was that something that you and KV had been doing forever, or was that
forever? Well, yeah, it started back when I was making furniture out of tree limbs, I suppose. And I don't know, just being a loudmouth guy, one day out loud on camera, and I go, oh, we've got to go out to aisle 6 and find a such and such a tree. And Jen, our field producer, goes, boom, aisle 6. Like it's like the light came on, like, okay, we're using that one. And then that became a catchphrase. I mean, I've said it forever, and Katie and I have our own vocabulary that goes beyond the standard American issue of the Oxford Dictionary. We have a true vocabulary list that goes in the building world, in the treehouse building world, that all kinds of things. But aisle 6, I've been saying for years, but of course then TV picked right up, they glommed right onto that stuff. Oh God. See, I speak first and think later. And that came out from speaking first. Like that.
Dan, what is it that inspires you from the rest of the world? Like, how do you pull things into your work?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is observing how people are interacting with the built environment. And I think I love to see people use spaces in creative ways. Like, we wouldn't have thought of that, but it works and it really makes things fun. And how do you, and how light affects spaces. And you talked about the seasons and how places can be transformed, in one season and another. So I think it's really, observing and that interaction of people and the built environment that I draw a lot from.
I take a lot from what you both get to do. It's very romantic to me. The idea that you can create moods, that you can guide I'm sure not every person is just like art, right? People can stare at the same piece of artwork and be incredibly moved or go, I don't get it. But I think that the intentionality, I think, is what's really important. What I appreciate about people that do design work. And I think that's something I hope that we've accomplished here as well, is being intentional about the design, being intentional about what we want to accomplish by design or by community or whatever we do here. It's like that intentionality seems to be something that you've got this vision for what you're trying to go for and intentionally try and get there.
Right. And like you always said, Patrick, leave room for it to evolve and for each camper to make it their own. I think that was, you can do, as a designer, you can do so much and you can lay, a sort of fertile ground, and then people need to make it their own. And that is what I hope. And that there'll be so much healing and so much happiness and so much relationship building that happens from that space.
Yeah, absolutely. You have created a place where that happens. It happens in a wonderful way. And Jan and I were so lucky we got to plug in with you. And
so lucky. Thank you.
For that, we're really thankful.
Well, it's one of my favorite parts about my experience in camping. And for me, I came to it with luck. I showed up at a camp as a volunteer, thanks to a friend that said, hey, you should come do this. And that experience, I think, truly changed my life. It put it on a different path. Never imagined being a camp professional. I didn't even know you could actually be a camp professional.
You don't have to grow up either.
Right.
That gives you license to not have to grow up.
But the relationships, again, it comes back to, I think, the relationships we have with a place. And because camps are so important to people, even if they haven't gone back to camp since they were a child, they still play really important roles in their lives. And just those friendships that come and exist because of spaces, because of places, because of people that all interconnect. And again, I feel like my life is so enriched because of the people that in some ways, and I'm not sure this is going to come across the same way that I mean it to, but the people that kind of come into my life because of the place. Like you couldn't possibly go find all these people if you tried. They come to it. It's the magnetic power of camp. I mean, it's this cycle that, it gives so much to people and then they give so much. I mean, it's amazing. And we're so grateful that that both of you have been part of our journey. And again, I'm thankful to call you both friends. Beaver, I love that idea that you start off as a client, but you leave a friend. And
yeah, it's wonderful.
Absolutely.
It is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
What's next in your lives? Before we head out of here, what's next in your lives? What's going on?
Well, I'll start. So our firm is evolving, and it's really great to see two people that worked in our firm maybe 15, 20 years ago are coming back to, kind of take leadership roles. And so I get to be mentor. And so what I'm doing is working on what's called a 2030 district in Ann Arbor. And it's working with building owners to reduce carbon emissions and try and meet carbon neutrality goals. So that's my next 10 years of volunteering.
And then coming and volunteering at camp too, right? We're going to get you for a whole
always
week.
doing things at camp. Absolutely.
You gotta come on spaghetti eating day again. At least.
I don't know. That would be freeing for me, I think.
How about you, Beaver? What's in your future?
Oh gosh, well this the current right now future with this virus, it's scary. It's scary and it's weird and it's different and people were adapting in different ways. I'd have to say for all the quarantine, the isolating, the silver lining for me is before and during the outbreak of the virus, the folks I was in contact with most, my wife and I, our daughter, our older of the two daughters live in Moortown, 20 minutes away. So Jordan and her family, she has 2 boys. My grandson West and Julian, we get to hang out with. So all along, we've been hanging out with them. And then when the whole virus thing came up, we had to stop working in the project. We were in Florida at a strawberry farm in Florida, corporate headquarters, treehouse, a coffee break treehouse for a strawberry farm, which was exciting. But we took a break from that, and then the whole virus thing took off. I haven't been able to go back to finish that. So the silver lining is we're building a treehouse for my grandsons.
Wow.
For my grandsons. Actually, the truth be told, it's for my wife and I to have as a retirement, quote unquote retirement home. If we sell the house that we've had for a bunch of years, if that's our nest egg, we have no real retirement plan. So at some point we sell our house to live off of, hopefully we can live off of some of this, and we'll live in the treehouse that we say is for our grandkids, but really it's for us so that we can hang out with our grandkids. So the silver lining of not being able to see anyone else and go to work is I'm working on our own treehouse.
Oh, that's awesome.
For the since March. So March and April, mid-March, April, and now into May. So without an income, I'm without working, I'm working on our own. It's like, and it's, oh, I should have answered that when you asked me what's the best treehouse ever is our own. No, that's being selfish. But no, so that's the silver lining of this weird state we're in of having to stay away. I'm working on that. Awesome.
Well, that's a good fitting kind of closing. I think that makes sense, that it's the project you're currently working on, right?
Yes, that's right. There you go.
Don't have to worry about offending.
Let's be PC about it.
That's funny. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I know we kind of put this together last minute, and I'm so grateful for your willingness to jump on board. This is, I mean, it's early, but it's been the best part about my day so far. So thank you.
Yeah, and I thank you. Jan, I got a note yesterday that this might be last minute, but great. Last minute things are the best. Like, think of all the dinner parties, the dinner gatherings are ones that you just 10 minutes earlier, you call your friends, say you want to join us for dinner. Those are not the ones that you plan on for months. So there's all this intentional stuff. Some of the unintentional things are like, yeah, it made my day today to get to join you, because yesterday I had no notion until yesterday I had no notion of this coming up. So I hope for everyone out there, this inspires you to keep plugged in at camp and keep those cards and letters and checks in the mail. Can I be a salesman for you, Patrick?
You're doing well.
Yeah,
awesome.
Like, as we all have touched on, we really appreciate our connection to camp. So whatever it takes to keep you guys afloat and keep floating, especially now in these crazy times where you can't have physical camp, but you have a virtual camp, just by quote Malcolm X, right? By any means necessary. So keep those cards and letters coming.
Well, thank you, Jan. Beefer, please say hey to your team and your crew and KV.
I will say hi for
all
you.
Those guys, and Clint. Those guys, we love them. We love
absolutely. Say hi to everybody.
Big hugs.
I may need to have something
all around.
I need to have something fall off the treehouse, and it might need like 6 guys to come back and fix it.
There you go. Call me up. Just all you got to do is call.
We love you. Thanks, Jan.
Okay. Bye-bye, and good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Meet your goal.
You got it. So we'll be back at 11:45-ish, somewhere around in that neighborhood, for some magic from one of our old camp staff, Miko. And I will tell you that I think I'm going to make a bold statement here, that this has been our most productive hour. We're over 50, I think it's 51,000.
Wow.
Yay!
Since you guys came on, so maybe we should just have you for a couple more hours.
Well, if someone could run off to Crazy Jim's Blimpie Burgers and bring me a triple cheese, and I'll sit here all day. If I can eat lunch, if you provide lunch, I'll sit here all day.
Well, add another 500 from my mom.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. We're grateful. Love you all. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Stay well.
See ya.
And live, where is it?